So you've seen those YouTube faceless channels making tens of thousands of dollars a month, posting 2 to 3 videos every single day. And you're wondering how they can do that. It's automation. In this video, I'm going to show you how I fully automated voiceovers for my own channels. So first, I'll do a demo and then I'll explain how every step of the automation works. All I need for this automation to run is first of all the folder ID, which is the drive where the audio files will be saved, the script ID, which is the Google Doc where I have the scripts, and the chunk size. So here the chunk size is the size of each audio of each paragraph, but I'll go into more details later. So after inputting all this data, I just have to click OK. And here on my make.com dashboard, you can see how the workflow has started. So right now it's moving through the steps. All right, so you can see just how the first chunk has appeared in my Google Drive. So the workflow will actually go through each iteration and generate all the files for my script. So just for reference, this is a script that I gave my automation. So it's a 5-page document. So basically I'm expecting a couple of, maybe dozens of audio files. Let me actually play the first one just to give you a glimpse of how it sounds.
A 19-year-old boy and a 76-year-old man sat on the same bench, 57 years apart in age, yet closer than either expected.
Now, if you want to understand how this works, watch till the end because I break it down for you step by step. Welcome to my AI automation for unlimited voiceovers for faceless YouTube videos. So what are the requirements for this particular automation? So first of all, you need a make.com or N8N account for the automations. You will need a Google AI Studio API. So in this case, I'm using Google AI Studio, but you can also use 11 Labs, which is a leader in the voiceover generation market. You also need a Claude or OpenAI API access for the AI models. And you need a Google Workspace access as well. So the Google Sheet, the Google Doc, and the Google Drive to store your audio files, of course. Now, what I'm about to share with you matters a lot because when you see all those faceless channels putting volume content out there, I'm pretty sure like you feel intimidated. You cannot grab your head around like how much time it takes to produce all this content, but it's actually quite simple if you understand automation and you know how to put each of the things that I will share with you in place. So this matters because it's scalable. You have consistency when you work with AI, speed, right? So just imagine if you had to hire a voiceover specialist, the time for hiring, the delay and everything, and you can do it in any language. This automation has several parts. So I will explain the flowchart or the diagram, how I thought through the automation. So first of all, you need to understand the input setup. So earlier when I was running the automation, I showed you that I had mainly 3 inputs for this automation, which is first a folder ID. So that's a Google Drive where I saved the audio files that are generated. I also need the script ID, which is the ID of the document where I save the content, like the script, and the chunk size. Now, this is very important because the way AI works is that you have to, if you have big complex tasks that requires a lot of computing power, you have to break it down to smaller chunks. So just imagine if I had to give like the 5-page document to Google AI Studio or 11 Lab to read it, you'll have a lot of difficulty or trouble reading it because that's just too much. So what you have to do is to slice it into chunks. And the way you do that is by either running it through a code or giving it to an AI model that will slice it for you. So those are the input setup for this particular automation. The first step after the input setup is of course is text chunking. So basically here the LLM or the code that you can also use a Python or JavaScript code for this part is that the LLM splits the script into manageable pieces. Claude is the best at this from my experience at least because I've used a lot of Claude and OpenAI ChatGPT, and from experience Claude is best, and most importantly the execution time of Claude is faster than ChatGPT. The ChatGPT tends to take a lot more time to slice text, especially when the content is like a couple of pages long. Now for the voiceover generation, As I said earlier, you will need the Google AI Studio or 11 Lab that will iteratively generate the audio files. This is what it looks like in the workflow. For each iteration, the automation generates the audio. This is actually a good example because when you run automations like this, you actually run into errors sometimes, and you need to have like the knowledge and the experience to debug those errors. So right now, we're having a time execution timeout, so I'll probably need just to rerun the workflow a second time, like from where it ended, to generate the full script. But I can already show you, like here in the drive, we've generated like the first 5 chunks or paragraphs. And then after the voiceover generation, you need the transcript. So you don't need the transcript, but I personally generate the transcript because the SRT files are very useful when it comes to syncing images to audio later on, because we are in the process of creating faceless YouTube channels. There are channels that do not need images, like basically it's just text on the screen. Other faceless channels need images, others need even like animated images and everything. So we'll see everything on this channel. But first, I do the transcription with ChatGPT, and then finally I save the audio files in my Google Drive. So this is what it looks like. If I walk you through the automation, this part of the automation is really where I read the document and I format it, because when you generate script with AI models, sometimes you can see brackets or even like quotes in the text. Now, text to speech models struggle with code sometimes, so you have to remove all those codes. So that's what I'm doing here. And then I create the folder where I want to save the audio files. This AI model, the Claude AI model, is where I slice the text in chunk. So I can give you a glimpse of my prompt. So you are a text chunking specialist. You split long scripts into coherent chunks that are easy to feed into text-to-speech model, right? So you can see here, have the output format and everything. So this is where I slice it. Now this is where the magic happens actually. So after dividing the initial script into chunks, basically what happens is I have the chunks here that are organized in an array. So each array is a collection, and then I pass it through an iterator. Now the iterator just allows me to basically loop over as many times as needed to generate all the audio files. And then here is where the magic happens. So this is where I do an API call. So for this example, I'm using the Google AI Studio API. You can use the Google Text-to-Speech API. You can also use 11 Labs, like I said earlier. So you have the prompts and everything. A quick tip here, when you're using Google API, is use temperature. Now, basically, for those of you who are not familiar, the temperature is like the freedom that you want to give the AI to express itself. So if the temperature is like 1, the AI tends to be more creative and you have like more variation in the tones. It kind of sounds weird to me, so I prefer staying between 0.2 and 0.3 because that's the sweet spot that I found. If it's below 0.2, like 0.1, it kind of sounds boring and too robotic. So you need to find the sweet spot for the type of content that you want to create. So if you're creating like educational content, it makes sense to have a kind of neutral voice. But if it's a storytelling content like Faceless channels that you're doing, then like you might want to be more creative, and the intonation could be, you can allow the AI to be more creative when it comes to the text generation. Another thing is that the Google AI Studio actually outputs PCM files. So you need to convert them to like readable files like WAV or MP3 and everything. You can use other modules. So in this case, I decided to do it with the JavaScript code, and then I converted it and I saved it to my Google Drive, so which is the one here that I showed you. Now you can see here that I have a bunch of them, so I can just give you a glance of like all the audio files. So this is what it looks like when it finished to generate like the audios. So the transcripts basically is generated here. I'm using Whisper to generate the transcript. It's an SRT file for those of you who know, and I save everything on the drive. So guys, I'm literally recording this live, and have you seen like some of the automation when you run them encounter like errors and bugs, and I mean, you have to be familiar with error handling and the common pitfalls. So from my experience, one that comes a lot is the text-to-speech errors. Like sometimes you generate the audios and there are long pauses or mispronunciations. How do you deal with that? Usually is to properly format your text. So it's probably going to be like a voice over specialist, but it's going to just like make sure that the punctuation is on point. Now for long pauses, if you put like emotion reference into your script, like smile or a pause, these are the type of things that causes long pauses in the script. So maybe you might want to try excluding them, especially if you're using Google AI Studio. I think the AI is smart enough to know when to pause and when to variate the tone and everything. So I won't put that inside. And the other thing is really how to deal with chunks. Because if the chunk is too small, then you have like you consume a lot of computing power and you run through a lot of iterations and you waste your credit. And if the chunks are too big, now you kind of have like cutoffs in the script. So basically the way you figure this out is through a couple of iterations. So you can do like different iteration, maybe try 100 words, 200 words, 600 words. It could also be like characters, like maybe 600 characters or 1,000 characters, and then you figure out the sweet spot for you. Now, basically, this is like the backbone of automations. If I were to present some like a product or a software, those will be taken care of inside the software and you wouldn't have to worry for that. But I'm sharing this for those of you who want to learn AI automation, you're curious, you want to understand it, even if you want to use it, like you don't want to deal with this, but this is really important. Now, guys, this is just video 2 in a video series on AI automation that I'm currently doing, focused on content creation. So this AI automation series is mainly going to be on content creation. If you haven't watched yet, I'll invite you to watch the first video on how to generate scripts through AI automation. In the next video, what I'm going to share with you is actually quite exciting because I will show you how to generate images through a make automation similar to this one that fits the context and that takes care of like everything, like based on the transcript and the timeline provided by the video. If you haven't already subscribed, drop a comment below if you have any other question, and yeah, see you next time.